And now we turn to Daf Yudamid Beis. But if it's Haisa Imo Anusas Aviv, it wasn't Nisuasa, but rather Anusa, V'nisesli Achime Aviv, Umeis, and the brother died without children. She fell for Yibum to her own son. Is Zui Shapoteres as Tzarasa. Why? Because since there was a Tfisas Kedushin to the mess, because as we said before, Anusas Aviv, according to Rabbi Yehuda, is only a lav, and Kedushin Tosa B'chayve lavin, so therefore there was a Zika, is then she patters up Hatzara when the two women fall for Yibum to the son. The Afal Pisha Shanu Chacham Shasenicha Meishisrei, Yeshan Lahosif, Sheshisrei, Kigon, Zu. This case of Anusas Aviv. So now the Gemara is going to raise an objection to Levi. Amalei Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan, the Levi the Omar the E Nami Ktani Lisnei Acholitz Liavinto v'Chazav v'Kidsha umeis below banim. The halacha is that after a Yavam gives chalitza to the tzara, to the Yevama, then the Torah prohibits him from marrying her under a lav of imlo yivna. Kevan shalabana shuvlo yivna. Now, what's the status of the chalutza vis-a-vis the other achim, not the cholitz? So that's going to be a machlok between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan holds that just like for the acha cholitz, the iser is only an iser lav. So too, as far as all the other achim is concerned, they have the identical iser lav of lo yivna. According to Reish Lakish, once the cholitz gave chalitza to the Yevama, then as far as the other brothers is concerned, it's Eishes Ach Shalo B'Makom Mitzvah, and therefore there's an Itzur Karetz. So now we have the following case: Hacholitz Liyavinto v'Chazav v'Kidsha. We're talking about Levi, who holds the E Katani, which means that in this case, Ruvain married his chalutza, and by doing so, he violated a lav lo yivne. And therefore, when he dies, this chalutza falls for yibum to the other brothers. So here's the case: Reuven, Shimon, and Levi and Yehuda are brothers. Shimon marries Sarah, Levi marries Rivka. Levi dies without children, and Rivka falls in front of the achim for yibum. Shimon gives chalitza to Rivka, who's the almana of Levi. And at this point, the chalitza generates a lav. Now, according to Reish Lakish, as far as the other brothers are concerned, chalutza is an isa karetz, right? The chalitza removes the zika, and we go back to the original state of Eishes Achiv, Shalobu Makom Mitzvah, and there's no zika, and therefore we're talking about an isa karetz. Now, Shimon now marries her. And again, as far as the choletz is concerned, Shimon gave a chalitza, is kedushin tovs, because that's only chayvi lav, lo yivd. Shimon dies without children, and now his wives fall for yibum to the brothers. Now, according to Reish Lakish, the Isra on the brothers is an Isra Ereva of Eishes Achiv, which means Eishes Achiv Shalom Makom Mitzvah. There's no Zika, and therefore there's no heter on the original Isra of Eishes Ach. And now she will pater up Hatzara min Achalisa min Ayibu, like any Ereva. Because again, according to Reish Lakish, as far as the other brothers are concerned, not the Cholitz himself, is an Isra Karetz. The Migu Yasur Tzara Sanam Yasur. So therefore, Reish Lakish is asking Rabbi Yochanan, according to Levi, why didn't the Mishnah have the case of Choletz Liavim Tova Chazav Kitu Meis Below Banim? And that would be a case of an erva that patters up to tzara, because the chalutza vis-a-vis the other brothers is an isa kares. Amalei Rabbi Yochanan responded, "Lefi she'ena b'tzaras tzara." Our Mishnah is only interested in cases where there's tzara and tzaras tzara. And the Mishnah wants to be mechadish that tzaras tzara patas are also ptura min hachalitza min hayibum. And we cannot find a case of tzaras tzara unless it's an erva who's only asura on one of the brothers. But here the erva is asura on all the brothers, midin chalutza and eishes af. So if there's an erva that's only asura on one of the brothers, and the other brother who doesn't have that Isur erva marries her, he's miyabim her, the tsar of this erva, and if he has another woman besides this woman that he was miyabim, and he dies without any children, and now his wives fall for in front of the first one for yibum, then the second wife of the second brother becomes the surmi din zara. But in the case of chalitza, which was Reish Lakish's question, it's impossible that she could be misyabim to any of the other brothers after his death, because they're all also on the chalutza b'isur karetz of Eishes Ah. So now that the Isur is equal, it's uniform to all the brothers, with an Isur karetz Eishes Ah, there's no possibility of tzaras tzara. So the Gemara still objects. Lei, why didn't Rabbi Yochanan give a different answer to Reish Lakish? That chayve lavim hu v'chayve lav b'nei chalitza v'yibum dinu. Reish Lakish asked this question based on his own shita that as far as the other brothers are concerned, it's an Isur karetz, and therefore there should be a p'tur of tzara. And Rabbi Yochanan answers that there's no tzara. Why didn't Rabbi Yochanan just answer him that as far as the other brothers are concerned, it's only an Isur lav of lo yivna, because Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion against Reish Lakish that all the brothers are equal and uniform. They all have an Isur lav. And in the case of an Isur lav, there's Kiddushin Tofsin, and you would have a p'tur of Yibum in this case. Again, both these wives would be chayav in Chalitza, because in Chayvi Lavim we have Chalitza. The p'tur of Arayos, which is derived from Achos Isha, we don't derive from that anything more than Chayvi Krisis, but an Isur Lav doesn't pater up Chalitza. So why did Rabbi Yochanan have to give the answer, L'fi she'ena b'tzaras tzara? He should have said in this case, there is Chalitza. So where answers the Dvar of Ka'amar, Rabbi Yochanan was answering Reish Lakish's question on Reish Lakish's turf. According to you, Lidvarcha, that the other brothers of the Chalutza are an Isur kares, and that was the basis that undermined your question. Well, the answer is, but there's no tzaras tzara. Lidi, according to my shita, says Rabbi Yochanan, chayve lav men v'chayve lav b'nei chalitza v'yibum dinu. So therefore, your question is no question. You can't add another case of chalutza to the list of arayos, because according to me, even if he remarries his chalutza, there would be yibum after his death. Elididcha, but according to your shita, that only vis-a-vis the cholitz himself is there an Isur lav of lo yivna. But as far as the other brothers are concerned, there's an Isur kares of eishes af. Is chayve krisis ninu? And the answer would be l'fi she'ena b'tzaras tzara. Now, in a case of chalitza, we said before that as far as the cholitz is concerned, there's an Isur lav based on the pasuk of lo yivna es beis achiv, kevan shelo bona es beis achiv, shuv lo yivna. Itmar acholitz liyavimto b'chazav v'kitsha. Amar Reish Lakish, hu eino chayev ala chalutza kares, but ha'achim chayovim ala chalutza kares. So even though, as far as the cholitz is concerned, there's no Isur kares, and therefore, because of a kitcha, that would be a valid kiddushin. But nevertheless, as far as the other achim is concerned, if they were to marry this woman who's a chalutza, there would be no tfisas kedusha because that's called chayve krisis. So now let's say, for example, the choletz has 2 wives and he dies. Then according to Reish Lakish, the tzara of the chalutza would not need yibum or chalitza. Why? Because she's a tzaras erva. He says here in the Mesifta that nifkasi kasa al yedei chalitza rishona. V'darshin bayis echadu choletz, bein al choletz shnei batim, ve'al osat tzara, bein hu u'bein ha'achim chayoven al tzara kares. It comes down to the same point, that as far as the chalutza vis-a-vis the other achim is concerned, Reish Lakish maintains that there's an Isur kares. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, bein hu bein achim, we're going to have a uniformity between the choletz and the other brothers. Einam chayovim lo al chalutza kares, lo al tzara kares. They violate the law of lo yivne. Kevin shalabana shuv lo yivne. That's the only violation that they're guilty. My time in the Reish Lakish. Why does Reish Lakish say that as far as the achim are concerned, not the choletz, is an Isur kares? Because logically, we should have said that through chalitza, the zika of yibum was paka, the mitzvah of yibum no longer applies, and we should go back to the Isur kares of Eishes Ach, but yet you're telling me that the choletz himself is potter from kares. And the answer is the Omar Krasher lo yivne, Kevin Shalbana Shul lo yivne. Ihu dekai below yivne, aval achiv kirika kaime. As far as he himself, the choletz, the Torah says lo yivne, asher lo yivne, and that generates a lot. But as far as the achim are concerned, there was no matir or mitzvah to remove the original Isur erva of Eishes Ach, and therefore the Isur of Eishes Ach remains in its original place, locked in place, and the V'chi of kares. Now, as far as the choletz himself is concerned, he would be chayev on the tzaros b'kares, because Allah didei hu dekai below yivne. Vis-a-vis the chalutza, there's a lav of lo yivne, so that's a lav without kares. But hatzara kidakaimi kaimi. However, the tzara, when she falls for yibum, is an erva of Eishes Ach shalom b'malchus mitzvah, and therefore there would be a chiyuv kares. Rabbi Yochanan, he holds mika midi to be kare iboy high cholitz iboy high cholitz iboy high cholitz iboy high cholitz v'hashta koya love the kares. How could it be that there's a difference between one of the brothers and the other brothers? In any one of the brothers has the same equal shot at yibum and chalitza. So when the Torah says kevan shalobana, it's addressing all the brothers equally. So it's impossible to say that with regard to the choletz himself, there's no Isur kares, but with regard to the other brothers, there's an Isur kares. And basically, the asod here of Rabbi Yochanan is that one brother who gives choletz is really representing all the other brothers. He is a shliach, and that's what the Gemara spells out now. Ela iu shlichuso diachim kav. The one particular brother that steps up to the plate to give chalitza is really a proxy representing all the brothers. So that now all the brothers are included under the law of lo yivne, as if each one of them had given her chalitza. And in the case of chalutza, we said there's no Isur kares on the choletz. Iu shlichusa de tzarakov. And the same thing applies to the tzaros. that the one who gave the one wife of the deceased who receives chalitza on behalf of all of Hatzaras, all the other wives of the late brother. Esvei Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan objects to Reish Lakish with the following question: Hacholetz liavim to b'chazvik kitu meis tzricha chalitza min ha'achim. If the choletz himself remarries illegitimately the chalutza and then he dies, she needs chalitza from the other brothers. According to me, it makes sense. According to me, as far as all the other brothers are concerned, like the Cholitz himself, there's no Chiv Karis, there's only a Chiv Lav. It's Hainu the Tricha Chalitza Menachem. After the Cholitz dies, she needs Chalitza because we're talking about Chavi Lavin. And a Zika is generated even by a marriage of a Chavi Lavin. And to get rid of that Zika and be not all chuk, you need Chalitza. But according to Reish Lakish, Amai Tzricha Chalitza, why does she need Chalitza from any of the brothers? You could say that there's a valid Kedushin when the Choletz remarries his Chalutza, because that's only Chayvi Lavin, and Kedushin Tovs the Chayvi Lavin. But now, as far as the Achim are concerned, the other brothers, you hold Reish Lakish an Isur Erev of Eishasah. And Chayvi increases up Turis Min HaChalitza Min HaYibum. So why does she need Chalitza? And Reish Lakish turns to Rabbi Yochanan in response, and he says, L'tamech, and even according to your Shita, Rabbi Yochanan, this Brisa is very difficult. Ema Seifa, let's read the Seifa of the Brisa. The Brisa says, in Cholatzla, Echad Min HaAchim V'lo Kitcha, Amad Echad Min HaAchim V'Kitcha, Ein Lo Lov Klum. If one of the other brothers, after she received Chalitza, would be Mekadosh her, she does not need a get. You're telling me, according to you, Reish Lakish, that as far as the other brothers are concerned, there's the uniform, the same Isur of Lav, Lo Yivne, is a Mayin Lo Lov Klum, the Kedushin Atosim B'Chayvi Lavin. It must be that there's a Chiv Karis on the other brothers. And ain't Kedushin Tos B'Chayve creases. So therefore, we end up here with a stira between the Seif and the Reish in this price. The Reish says Tzricha Chalitza Min HaAchim, but according to Reish Lakish, that Chayve increases. There's no need for Chalitza. But yet in the Seifa, it says that Ein Lo Lov Klum, which means that as far as the Achim are concerned, she's Asur B'Isur Kares of Eishasah. Rav Sheshes comes to reconcile this apparent contradiction, and he's going to maintain Rabbi Yochanan cheated as far as the other brothers are concerned, like the Chalutza is only an Isur Lav. But the Reisha reflects the Shita of the Chachamim, that Kedushin Tosu B'Chayve Lavin, and therefore you require Chalitza. The Seifa, Ason, Rabbi Akiva, the Yomer ain't Kedushin Tosu B'Chayve Lavin. So therefore, according to Rabbi Akiva, if one of the brothers would be Mekadosh her, she doesn't need a get, because there's no Tfisis Kedushin in a Chalutza who's an Isur Lav, because ain't Kedushin Tosu B'Chayve Lavin. So the Gemara now rejects Rav Sheshes. For listening, this entire brisa should have been written in one bava, in one fell swoop. It should have said, "Hacholetz liavim to v'chazav v'kitshu meis." L'divrei chachamim tzricha chalitza min ha'achim. L'divrei Rabbi Akiva ein lo lov klum. And here we turn to Daf Yud Aleph. Is kasha. The Gemara says that the answer that Rav Sheshes had offered to reconcile the Reish and the Seifa is a kasha, because the Reish and the Seifa should have been integrated into one whole, mentioning Rabbi Akiva who holds Ein Lo Lov Klum, she doesn't need a get because Ein Kedusha Tofsin Bechayvi Lavin. Now the Gemara is going to go on, and we'll get to this in Mitzvah tomorrow, and point out that Rav Ashi holds like Reish Lakish, that there's an Isakaris on the Achim as well, after Chalitza of one brother. And then we're going to have to try to answer this brisa based on that Shita of Reish Lakish. Because until now, we've only reconciled the brisa according to the Shita of Rabbi Yochanan, not according to Reish Lakish. This is where we'll stop for today. I wish you a Freilich and Purim and a meaningful kindness. Thank you so much.